Hey everyone, welcome to episode 50 of the RetroBreak Podcast. So I just finished rearranging all the consoles behind me, and it kind of got me thinking. I've got so many different ways of playing these games. Obviously there's the emulation route, there's playing them on the original consoles, there's playing them on the CRT, there's upscaling them using the OSSC, there's playing them through the capture card facing the computer, there's playing them on FPGA using the Mister, there's playing them using FPGA cores on the Analog Pocket. There's like 30 different emulation handhelds in a box behind me. There's clone consoles. There's the RetroFreak for emulating the cartridges. I've got the Retron 5 as well for doing the same thing. Basically, any game in this room, I have about 10 different ways of playing. And yet, I don't feel like using any of them, and it's actually really frustrating. Every time I look at the setup behind me, I always think, I just need one more thing, and then I'll finally sit down and actually play some of these games that have been in my backlog for years. I can finally, put the time aside, everything's perfect, it'll look great, I can capture it in amazing high quality, I can make a video on it, I can relax and enjoy the game without having to worry about any technical issues. And as I was rearranging my setup earlier, I was mainly just doing that because I'd got some new plug extension things and I wanted to tidy it up a little bit. But while I was doing that, I was looking at the mess of wires above and thinking, if only I had a Hydra 8x2 SCART output cable, and then I could get rid of two of the things up there. There might be a little bit of noise reduction, maybe it'd look slightly better. I wouldn't have to worry about turning two different things on and using two different power supplies. I could narrow that down to just one power supply. And then I was thinking, the OSSC is great, but when you're running PS2 or GameCube through it, the interlacing isn't very good, and you have to deal with Bob deinterlacing, and then that causes some issues with the screen, because then you get the weird burn-in issues by using an interlaced signal on a high refresh monitor, and then that's not very good. And then to record the consoles that are coming out of composite, I have to run them through one of those cheap SCART to HDMI converters, and that's not very good either. And then to play HD consoles on that side of the room, I can't play them using the CRT, even though they're playing retro games. And then trailing all the wires under the table to get to the computer, I lose a bit of signal degradation, and then there's a little bit of lag on this side of the room. So whenever I stream over here, it's not as good as playing the games over there. And I was just getting myself into such a mess, and I was writing down all these things. And basically, I still kind of want to do this, but it also all feels entirely pointless, and really I should just be happy with what I've got. I can capture the games fine. I've been making videos and doing live streams on my channels for years and years and years, and it's never really been an issue. It's only an issue in my head. Anyone who watches the videos doesn't care whether they're very, very slightly crisper or whether it's running through one upscaler or another one. Honestly, 90% of the people watching wouldn't even realize that it's running through an upscaler at all. I may as well just use an emulator. So why am I getting so worked up about this? Why can I not just sit down and play a game? And I don't have an answer to that. I am just driving myself crazy. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. Is the solution to go ahead and buy all those things? Buy a RetroTink 4K, get the proper upscaling that I want, get rid of all the weird signal issues with the PS2 and the GameCube, and be able to run component and composite cables through that, and then get the Hydra to replace all the SCART adapters and connection boxes that I've got, and simplify the setup that way. Some people in the videos have been saying that is a good idea, but then there's also people that just say, why bother going through all this effort? Just use an emulator, which is also an option. And then there's other people that say, why use emulators when there's FPGA technologies out there? And why bother with cartridges in the first place when the Mister exists? And yeah, I do use the Mister sometimes. When I was playing the Mega Man games on stream the other day, I was playing them using the Mister, and it was a great experience. But it's, on this side of the room, and then I can't play it on the CRT, and it doesn't have the same kind of feeling as using the original systems. But then when I use the original systems, I get annoyed that sometimes the cartridges don't get read properly. And that's not an issue with using ROMs or emulators or anything like that. And then if I am using the real systems, then sometimes I use an EverDrive instead. But then what's the point of having the game collection if I'm just going to be using EverDrives? So I've literally been going around in circles and driving myself crazy. So I'll ask you guys, what should I do? You can either send me a response to retrobreakgames@gmail.com. You can let me know in the latest content part of my Discord, or if you're listening on YouTube or Spotify now as well, actually, you can leave a comment below this podcast. So please let me know. Should I just give up caring and just enjoy the setup that I've got and actually play some games? Or should I try and get these upgrades that will make everything very, very slightly smoother, even though it's very expensive? Is it worth it? Should I go through with that? And will I be satisfied on the other end? That's the other question. I have no idea. I think it's because, as well, I wasn't feeling very well last week. I actually had a few days off work, and work's really been dragging me down over the past few weeks as well. And I've actually been slipping into a little bit of depression, if I'm completely honest. I really have been having a tough time. And, you know, I just want to come in here, I want to switch my mind off, and I just want to play things. But every time I sit down, I either can't decide what to play, or if I can decide what to play, I can't be bothered to go through all the effort of switching all the stuff on over there. And by that point, I'm then questioning whether I should just play them on emulators. I don't know. I don't know whether it's just my own mindset that's stopping me from playing the games, or whether it really is because the setup that I've got is kind of convoluted, and whether it needs streamlining, or whether I just need to stop being stupid and stop thinking so much and just play the damn games. Like, that is what I enjoy. I don't enjoy scrolling on Twitter and seeing people complaining about the state of the world and the UK and politics and everything. That's another thing that's been on my mind recently. Obviously, if you've seen the news in the UK with all the riots and the protests going on and stuff, it's just like constant bombardment of opinions on both sides of the spectrum. And then I have people at work talking about it as well. And I was stuck in like meetings for like an hour plus, listening to these views that I didn't really agree with, and that was getting me down. And then I'd hang up on the call, and then I'd just be depressed for the rest of the day. And then I don't know, and then I just want to switch my mind off, pretend things aren't happening, and go back to play retro games. And then I fall into the spiral of not knowing how to play them or which way I want to play them. I don't know what to do. Sorry, this podcast's been a bit all over the place, and maybe it's a little bit depressing for you, but you know, this is where I'm at. This is what's on my mind, and this is what I'll be sharing in the podcast. So let's leave that topic there for now. Like I said, please let me know in the comments. And for the first time in a while, let's move on to some of the other topics in the podcast. And for those of you who are just tuning in, I guess, for the first time, the other parts of the podcast that I usually do, there's usually 4 sections. There's the topic, which we've just covered, and then there's games I've been playing, projects I've been working on, and content that I've been enjoying. So although I've been complaining about not being able to play much because of my own stupid brain capacity, I have been playing a few games. So there was one on the Dreamcast that I finally decided to play when I was feeling a bit down the other day, and it really did help. It is a very kind of relaxing game just because of how long the laps are, and that is a game by Ubisoft called Speed Devils for the Dreamcast. And it has great graphics, and it has a very, very nice physics engine for the racing. The levels are quite long, and I did see some complaints online saying that it gets a little bit boring because the laps are like 3 minutes each, and there's like 3 laps, so that's like 9-10 minutes for a single race. And it is kind of grindy because you don't get much money for winning the races, but you have to use the money to fix your car up as well as buying new cars. And it's got a cool gambling mechanic as well, where you can do sort of gamble that you would beat a certain opponent. And if you beat them, then you double your money. But if you don't beat them, then they take half your money. And so far, I haven't beaten any of them. So it is a very, very grindy game, trying to get enough money to get the new cars to progress. But it is very rewarding as well. And I just love the way it plays. It just feels like a fantastic racing game. So I'll definitely play more of that in the future. I did get really frustrated and turned it off because I lost one of the bets, and I lost loads of money, and I was so close to getting the next car. So let me know whether you played Speed Devils before. I've been really enjoying it. Another game that I've been playing is a game for the Switch called Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, and I think this is one that I brought up a few weeks ago in a previous episode For those of you that don't know, it's one of those interesting games where it's basically two different game genres in one. So you have the farm building aspect of it, and you have the rice growing, and you have to tend to your crops and gather resources and things like that. And to do all that, to gather all the resources and things, you actually go out and do platforming challenges in all these different areas, and eventually you can power up your weapons by meeting different people and gathering the right resources. You have to make sure that you're well fed so that all your stats are high when you face the bosses. It's just a really great game, and the two different gameplay styles really gel together very, very nicely, and I've been really enjoying my time with it. It also looks great as well, and I'm playing it on the Switch, and it plays at 60 frames a second, and I think it looks really nice. So really, really happy with that, and definitely recommend it if you like that sort of multi-genre game, but you also want a challenge as well, because it is quite difficult. And honestly, even though it's been a few weeks since I did this part of the podcast, those are actually the only two games that I've played in that entire time. I don't know why, but I just haven't really felt like playing anything, which is quite unusual for me. So hopefully this is just a passing phase and I can start enjoying games again soon. Else I'll run out of things to talk about and make videos on, so something has to change. I don't really know what's wrong. Anyway, the next part is projects, and I have actually been working on getting Super Donuts back up and running. So for those of you that don't know, Super Donuts was a platformer without a jump button that I made back in 2017 now, and that was uploaded to iOS and Android, but for whatever various reasons it got taken off the store, and then I lost all the source code and I thought the game was gone forever. Well, I found the source code. It was extremely broken, but by using an older version of the game engine, I managed to get it back up and running. But there was a lot of issues with it. It was an older version of the game. There was a lot of new bugs that have been introduced trying to get it to run on PC instead of mobile. But I'm almost there. I've now completed all the way up till the end of World 4, which is officially halfway through the game, so we're halfway done. It's still going to take another few months, I think, but I do have some interesting plans to kind of expand on the original concept as well. I've already changed some of the way the game plays for the better, so I really hope people look forward to playing that when it's finally released. I don't know whether after that, whether I'm actually going to make another game or not. I have kind of moved away from the idea of wanting to make games in order to try and focus on some other kind of artistic outlets as well as making videos. Maybe I'll try and make music again, because I was quite enjoying that at one point. I've also been doing a bit of drawing as well, which I've been quite enjoying, so I might try my hand at some more different kind of artistic endeavours instead of making games for a while. But I'll be back at some point, you know. Making games was always my original goal in life, which I'm actually going to do a dedicated video on in the future, nearer to the release of Super Donuts for the PC, so I can sort of share my journey through game development and all my trials and tribulations along the way, and there have been a lot, but I'll save that for that episode. So that is it for projects. Oh, I have also updated my website to just make it a little bit more streamlined and improved the blog aspect of the site as well. So if you want to check that out, have a look at retrobreak.co.uk. I'm very pleased with it now. It took a long time for it to get to this stage, but I actually feel like it's a proper, fully functioning website now. So on there, you can instantly see my most recent videos, my most recent live streams, and any blog posts that I've made as well, and podcasts too. The past 5 or 6 episodes of the podcast you can actually listen to directly from the website itself, which I think is fantastic. And obviously there's links to all of those different profiles for me as well. And also the blog. I've been updating it at the end of every single month with a look back at everything that I've released on the main channel, on my Twitch account, on YouTube Live, and on the podcast as well, and sort of talked about how I feel the month's gone and whether I'm happy with the progress that I'm making on RetroBreak and what I want to try and change in the future. And there is a lot I want to try and change. I'll probably save that for a separate podcast in the future where I talk about some of my ideas for the rest of the year and going into next year as well. I've actually got some plans for next year, which are going to change things up quite a lot, but hopefully make it a little bit easier on me as well. So look forward to hearing about all that. Now for some content that I've been enjoying over the past few weeks. And again, I haven't really watched as much as usual either, but there was one that I really enjoyed watching the other day, something very unique that I found, and that was someone who actually put a CRT screen onto an original Game Boy, and you can watch that over on a channel called James Channel, and the video is called I Made a CRT Game Boy. It was about half an hour long, but the time just flew by, and I really enjoyed watching the insane contraption that he'd managed to somehow put together. And the battery lasts for all of like 2 minutes, but it was just hilarious to watch. Outside of that, I've been enjoying some Markiplier videos with my fiance. Every time we eat downstairs, we've been watching him play through Supermarket Simulator, which is really, really fun, and also Chained Together as well, which is actually another game that I played. I wasn't very well and I was playing it in bed, but I still enjoyed playing it anyway with some friends. So yeah, definitely enjoying Markiplier at the moment. And what else? I've been reading a manga called Insomniacs After School, and I've been getting the volumes as they come out. It's now up to volume 6, and I'll be actually going on another podcast in a few weeks' time with Mangatak. So if you're into your manga and you want to hear about the first volumes of various different mangas, then check out the podcast Mangatak. And like I said, I'll be going on that at the end of the month to share my thoughts on Insomniacs After School, which is definitely one of my favourite manga that I've read in a long time. And it's one that I've actually got on pre-order now. So every time a new issue comes out, I will be reading it on day one. And it's just such a nice romantic story, and the panels are just really cool as well. But wait until that podcast if you want to hear my full thoughts about that. And I've also been watching some YouTube by a YouTuber called Mudan, who is the editor for the Trash Taste podcast and all of the boys individually as well. But I've actually been really enjoying his videos, more so than the actual videos from Joey Garnes and Connor, which is kind of surprising. I feel like because he's only in Japan for a limited amount of time, he's really putting a lot of effort into making a new video every single day, and it kind of takes me back to the Casey Neistat days, where I would watch a new vlog every single day, except this time it's in Japan, so it's even more fun for me to watch, and I've been really enjoying them. He has a very unique sense of like sarcastic humor as well, which really works very well with the videos, and they're all edited really well, obviously. And there's a lot of interesting places that he's been going to as well that I've been taking notes for, because I hope to be going to Japan again, potentially at the end of this year or maybe early next year. So that was a few things that I've been watching and enjoying recently. Let me know down in the comments wherever you're listening to this what you've been enjoying watching, and put some links there as well so everyone else can check them out. And we do actually have a YouTube section on my Discord as well, so if you've watched anything cool and you want to share it with the RetroBreak community, then feel free to go over there and you know, post your fun stuff, and you can get to that through my website as well, retrobreak.co.uk. Anyway, that's it for episode 50. Hope you all enjoyed listening. Hopefully I'll be a little bit more positive in the next episode, but I'm still really enjoying making these, and I'm very glad that you're all here for the ride along with me. So that is it for now. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you all again in a few weeks' time. Goodbye.